The happiest news for agriculture graduates is AO and AAO applications are out now through KPSC in Karnataka. So, today here I am covering the part 2 or paper 2 of this particular exam because part 1 is divided into the current affairs and GK or general knowledge. That will be carrying 300 marks, and subsequently the other paper is also of 300 marks, part 1 and part 2, whereas the part 1 sources are already so much available in the internet, but part 2 material is limited. So here I am going to cover first. In this video I will tell you the entire syllabus, then we'll start with the specific subjects. First of all, you should understand the subject in brief, then only you can understand or attempt any of the MCQs. If you are just mugging up or reading the MCQs from particular group books, that won't be sufficient for the exam because some questions may be tricky as the level is BSc or MSc for the question papers. So, the start of application for this particular exam is 3/1/25, that is January 3rd to February 1st. So, let us start with the syllabus. First one is agronomy. Here, 20 subjects are covered, means for agriculture officer and assistant agriculture officer through BSc Agriculture or BSc Honors Agriculture. Agronomy syllabus consists of crop production that contains basic elements of crop production, factors affecting crop production, history of agriculture development, ancient Indian history, chronological stages of development of agriculture, agriculture research and education with special reference to India and Karnataka, contribution of agriculture and horticulture crops to national economy, importance and scope of agriculture, horticulture, sericulture, animal husbandry, and forestry as farming enterprises and relations to industry, women in agriculture, in that multifaceted role and tasks, work stress factors, soil factors, weather factors, ecology, crop distribution, adaptation, and crop production centers. Next is factors affecting plant growth, dry and irrigated agriculture, farming system approach, and value addition in agriculture. Agroclimatic zones of India and Karnataka, methods of crop production, tillage, the meaning of tillage concept and types of tillage, crop stand establishment, planting geometry and its effect on growth and yield, classification of crops, selection of seed material, importance of soil in crop production, concept of soil fertility and productivity and their improvement, effects of tillage on soil physical properties and root growth, requirement of ideal seed bed. Then green manures, manure and fertilizer management for different cropping systems, following its advantage and limitation, agronomic management for different soils, agronomic management of problematic soils. Friends, remember, you may be thinking that I am just reading the syllabus, but if you are thorough with the syllabus or if you remember the points in the syllabus, then only you can attend the specific question. One thing I can suggest you is just make down the points, not the big notes, or you take big books and make the notes. Just whatever you can do in short, just note it down and keep that book ready for the end 2 3 days before the examination so that you can easily remember the key points in any of the 20 subjects. The syllabus is vast, but if you plan it in a systematic way, you can easily remember and attend the questions. Next is water resources, their exploitation, scenario of irrigation in India, that may be canal, tank, well, and lift irrigation systems. Soil water relation, introduction to basic terms in water management and irrigation, study of moisture contents and hydrodynamic relations, management of soil moisture, direct, different direct and indirect methods, expressions of soil moistures and their mutual relations, plant water relations, their critical stages, meaning and impact of water stress, water availability, and its relationship with nutrient availability and losses. Then, water management of crops, like its identification, meaning, measurement, and relevance in crop production. Concept of evapotranspiration and measurement. Then, factors affecting water requirement. Study of water requirement of field crops and horticulture crops. Methods of irrigation like surface, subsurface, sprinkler, and drip. Their types and efficiencies. Constraints and advantages of different methods. Efficiency and irrigation methods to measure them. Quantitative estimation of irrigation water. Direct and indirect methods. Expression of flowing water and their mutual relations. Concept of water use efficiency, its relevance and factors affecting it. Then methods to improve water use efficiency. Next is assessment of irrigation requirement, scheduling of irrigation, approaches and methods to schedule irrigation. Development of irrigation plans for individual farms and micro and macro commands. Stability of irrigation water for irrigation, quality of water and its impact on growth, development, and yield of crops. Irrigation control and water conveyance methods, their advantages and disadvantages. Next is concept of drainage, in that surface and subsurface methods of drainage, irrigation practices of important field and horticulture crops. In this particular paragraph, you should cover the major schemes which are already running in the agriculture department or allied department, because these things are almost related, means like irrigation and all are related to that. Whichever current schemes are running, questions will be focused on that. Next is introduction, losses, harmful and beneficial effects, classification, propagation and dissemination and persistence of weeds, weed biology and ecology. See, this is a particular paragraph related to weed science. Okay. Then weeds, crop weed association, crop weed competition and allelopathy. Concept of weed prevention, control and eradication. Then methods of weed control like physical, cultural, chemical, and biological. Next is herbicides. Advantage and limitations of herbicide usage in India. In this concept, you should know how many herbicides are majorly used. Either it may be pre-emergent or post-emergent. Many herbicides are banned recently. You should make that list which are recently banned and which are already in practice. Then herbicide classification, formulations, methods and application, and precautions in usage. Then introduction to adjuvants and their use in herbicides. Next is introduction to selectivity and compatibility of herbicides with other agrochemicals, integrated weed management in major fields and horticultural crops, management of problematic weeds, shift of weed flora in cropping systems, aquatic and problematic weeds and their control. Next is the study of important cereals, rice, wheat, maize, millets like sorghum, bajra, finger millet, minor millets like foxtail, kodo, little, proso, barnyard millet, with reference to their importance, origin, and distribution, soil and climatic requirements. Then cultivation practices covering propagation of land, planting, irrigation, manures, fertilizer application, aftercare and harvesting. Preparing the produce for the market. Then recent advancements in cereal crop production, meaning and importance of pseudo cereals, the importance of pulse crops, their role in human nutrition and cropping systems, and constraint in pulse production. Then detailed study of important pulses like red gram, pea, Bengal gram, green gram, black gram, field bean, cowpea, horse gram, moth bean, and lentil. Then detailed study as in the case of cereal crops, recent advances in pulse crop production, detailed study of important forage crops like hybrid napier, Styloxanthus, paragrass, Anjan grass, Rhodis grass, lucerne, berseem, fodder maize, fodder jawar, and fodder bajra with reference to origin distribution and cultivation practices. Friends, as you know, our Finance Minister Mrs. Nirmala Sitaraman has recently announced about Shri Anna with respect to the millets. So you should understand and read about the concept of it, why it is important, and why she has emphasized on its production and propagation. Next paragraph is importance of oilseeds and commercial crops in the national economy. Problems in oilseed and commercial crop production. Detailed study on important oilseed crops like groundnut, linseed, sunflower, safflower, soybean, mustard, nicer, sesame, linseed, and castor, and commercial crops like sugarcane, cotton, tobacco, potato, chili, jute, mesta, with reference to their importance, origin, history, distribution, soil, and climate requirement, varieties, cultivation practices, and yield. Then recent advances in oilseed and commercial crop production, importance of biofuels, agronomy of conventional and non-conventional biofuels. Remember, while making the note, don't make the notes only in terms of agronomy. Just take one crop, add its soil importance, weeds, agronomical practices, and whatever the recent varieties means you should add crop plant breeding as well as seed technology in this particular important crops or particular crops. Next is introduction, history, and importance of rain fed agriculture in India and Karnataka, weather and climate, Earth's atmosphere, composition and structure, weather elements like solar radiation, temperature, relative humidity, atmospheric pressure, wind, cloud formation and classification, precipitation, and monsoon, weather hazards and weather forecasting, rainfall pattern and aberrant weather conditions of rain-fed agriculture, soil erosion, like in that types, losses, and conservation technique in that mechanical measures, infiltration and runoff, like in situ soil moisture conservation techniques like agronomic measures. Next is tillage. In that conservation tillage, fall plowing and fall fallowing, plant idiotypes in that crop and cropping systems for dry land, crop establishment techniques in that contingency crop planning and mid season corrections, use of mulches and anti transparents, soil fertility management in dry lands, in that residue management, watershed management like its concept and components, water harvesting and recycling, water wastelands in the types and management, and alternative land use systems, dryland practices and watershed management suggested for different agroclimatic zones of Karnataka. Next is sustainable agriculture. In that definition, concept, goals, factors affecting ecological balance, land degradation, water and air pollution, global warming, impact and amelioration, then sustainable practices like natural farming, alternative farming, integrated farming, HISA, LISA, and biofarms, farming systems, its principles, concepts, components, cropping systems like sequential cropping, crop radiation, relay, crop rotation, relay and ratoon cropping, then filler and interplanting in orchards, assessment of multiple cropping advantages, delineation of efficient cropping zones based on RYI and RSI, and strategies for improving crop productivity in different zones, IFS models, that is integrated farming system models for dry, wet, wastelands, and for different agroclimatic situations. Next is organic farming, in that concept, definition, principle, components, scope, relevance in the present context. Then organic production requirement, permitted and restricted inputs in organic farming. Then biological and intensive nutrient management, traditional and non-traditional additives in organic farming, weed, pest and disease management practices in organic farming, quality considerations, certification, accreditation, tree labeling, marketing and exports. Definition of precision agriculture, scope and concept of precision agriculture, components of precision agriculture, global positioning system, that is GPS, then geographical information system, GIS, computer software package models, and remote sensing for aerial satellite imagery, then site specific nutrient management for nutrient and irrigation management practices, then comparative yield, quality, and farm profits under SSM practices versus uniform rate technology or URT practice. So, friends, this is all about agronomy. The second topic or second subject syllabus is agriculture economics. In this basic concept, goods, services, utility, value, prices, wealth, welfare, wants, its meaning, characteristics, classification of wants, importance, then theory of consumption, law of diminishing marginal utility, its meaning, definition, assumptions, limitations, importance, then consumers surplus, its importance, demand, meaning, definition, then kinds of demand, demand schedule, demand curve, loss of demand, extension and contraction versus increase and decrease in demand, Engel's law of consumption, elasticity of demand, types of elasticity of demand, degrees of price elasticity of demand, then methods of measuring the elasticity, factors influencing elasticity of demand, then importance of elasticity of demand, supply, its meaning, definition, loss of supply, supply schedule, then supply curve, elasticity of supply and importance, welfare economics, meaning, Pareto's optimality, then national income, concept, measurement, public finance, meaning, principles, public resources, meaning, service tax, meaning, classification of taxes, canons of taxation, then public expenditure, meaning, principles, then inflation, its meaning, definition, kinds of inflation, role of and importance of agriculture in Indian economy, significant economic problems in Indian agriculture, then natural resource economics. Next is farm management, nature and scope, types, typical farm management decisions, production relationships, production functions, marginal product, marginal returns, marginal costs, elasticity of production, return to scale, then economic principles applied to the organizations of farm business, in that law of diminishing marginal returns, cost principles, principles of substitution between resources, principles of combining enterprises, equimarginal returns principle, then opportunity cost principle, linear programming, in that assumptions, advantages and limitations, risk and uncertainties, in that risk mitigating main measures, production economics, in that meaning, definition, nature, scope, basic concepts and terms, concepts of production, types of production functions, then technical changes, technical efficiency, determination of optimum input and output, physical optima, economic optima, cost functions, type and systems of farming. Agriculture finance, its nature and scope, time value of money, compounding and discounting, agriculture credit, meaning, definition, need and classification. Next is credit analysis, in that 4 R's and 5 C's and 7 P's of credit, repayment plans, history of financing agriculture in India, non institutional sources, commercial banks, nationalization of commercial banks, lead bank schemes, then regional rural banks, microfinance and group lending, scale of finance, higher financial agencies like RBI, NABARD, AFC, Asian Development Bank, World Bank, Insurance and Credit Guarantee Corporation of India, cost of credit interest rate, assessment of crop losses, determination of compensation, crop insurance advantages and limitations in application, estimation of crop yields, agriculture cooperation, philosophy and principles, then history of Indian cooperative movement, pre-independence and post-independence periods, cooperation in different plan periods, then cooperative credit structure, PACs, FSCs, then reorganization of cooperative credit structure, single window system, successful cooperative systems in different states. This is all about agriculture economics. The third subject is agriculture engineering. In this surveying, survey equipment, in that chain survey, cross staff survey, plotting procedure, calculations of area of regular and irregular fields, leveling. Leveling includes leveling equipment, terminology, method of calculation of reduced level, types of leveling, contouring. Next is irrigation, irrigation projects, classification of these projects, flow irrigation, lift irrigation. Then water sources, water lifting devices like pumps, they in that shallow or deep wells, capacity, power calculations, irrigation water measurement like weirs, flumes, and orifices, and methods of water management measurements and instruments, water conveyance systems, open channel and underground pipeline. Irrigation methods like drip and sprinkler irrigation systems, soil and water conservation, soil erosion, types and engineering control measures. Next is farm power in India. In that source, IC engines, working principles, two stroke and four stroke engines, IC, engine terminology, different types of IC engines, then tractor type, selection of tractor and cost of tractor power, tillage implements, primary and secondary tillage implements, implements for intercultural operations, seed drills, paddy transplanter, plant protection equipment, harvesting equipment, equipment for land development and soil conservation, energy sources, its introduction, classification, energy from biomass, types of biomass plants, constructional details, biogas production and its utilization, agriculture wastes, principles of combustion, pyrolysis and gasification, types of gasifiers, briquettes, types of briquetting machines, uses of briquettes, then shredders, solar energy, solar flat plate and focusing plate collectors, solar air heaters. Next is greenhouse technology. In this introduction, types of greenhouse, plant resources to greenhouse environment, planning and design of greenhouse, design criteria of greenhouse for cooling and heating purpose, greenhouse equipments, material of construction for traditional and low cost greenhouse, irrigation system used in greenhouse, cost estimation and economic analysis, choice of crops for cultivation under greenhouse, problems, constraints of greenhouse cultivation, and future strategies. Growing media, soil culture, types of soil required, drainage, flooding, and leaching, soil pasteurization in peat moss and mixtures, rock wool, and other inert media, nutrient film techniques, hydroponics. Next is threshing, threshers for different crops, parts, terminology, care and maintenance, winnowing, manual and power operated winnowers, care and maintenance, groundnut decorticator, hand operated and power operated decorticators, principles of working, care and maintenance of decorticators, then maize shellers and castor shellers, drying, grain drying, types of drying, then storage, grain storage, types of storage structures. Fruit and vegetable cleaning, machinery for cleaning of the fruits and vegetables, care and maintenance. Then grading, methods of gradings, equipments for grading of fruits and vegetables, care and maintenance of these things. Then quality standards like FAQ, ASTA, FPO, and FDA. Next subject is agriculture entomology. In agriculture entomology, history of entomology, factors for insects abundance, characters of class Insecta, structure of typical insect, structure and functions of body wall and its appendages, molting process, body segmentation, structure of head, mouth parts, types of mouth parts, modification of insect antenna, structure of thorax, types of legs, wing venation, modification, wing coupling apertures, then structure of abdomen and its appendages, structure of ovipositor, structure of male and female genitalia, then sensory organs, metamorphosis and diapers in insects, types of larva and pupa, and elementary knowledge of internal systems and their functions, digestive, circulatory, excretory, respiratory, nervous, secretory, that is endocrine and reproductive systems in insects, types of reproduction in insects, systematics. In the taxonomy, systematics, classification and its importance, brief history of classification, nomenclature definition, subject guidelines for the binomial nomenclature as indicated by ICZN, biotypes, species, subspecies, genus, family, order, tribe, hierarchy, taxonomic categories, type, concept in nomenclature, general classification of insects up to orders. Classification and general habits of economically important insect orders and families. Next is insect ecology. In that introduction, environment and its components, effect of abiotic like temperature, humidity, rainfall, etc., and biotic factors like food, natural enemies on insect populations. Then concept of balance of life in nature, biotic potential, and environmental resistance, causes for outbreak of pest population in agroecosystems, study of beneficial insects, parasitoids, predators, pollinators, weed killers, scavengers, and productive insects like other than silkworms and honeybees. Study of insect pathogens, in that mass production of parasites, predators and pathogens, categories of pests, concept and principle of pest management, in that economic threshold level, then EIL, like that is economic injury level, etc., methods of pest control like cultural, mechanical, physical, chemical, biological, legislative, and genetic methods. Next is integrated pest management, biotechnological approach in pest management, case studies, classification and study of insecticides, acaricides, rodenticides, molluscides, and semi-chemicals, insecticide formulations and their use, application techniques, phytotoxicity of insecticides, safe handling, in that symptoms of poisoning, first aid and antidotes, Insecticides Act 1968, non-insect pests like mites, rodents, snails, birds, etc., pest survey, surveillance and forecasting, household pests, insects of medical and veterinary importance. Next is distribution, biology, nature, and symptoms of damage and management strategies of insect and non insect pests in rice, sorghum, maize, ragi, wheat, sugarcane, cotton, mesta, sun hemp, pulses, groundnut, castor, sesamum, sunflower, safflower, mustard, brinjal, bhindi, tomato, cruciferous and cucurbitaceous vegetables, potato, sweet potato, colocasia, maranga, amaranthus, chili, mango, citrus, grapevine, cashew, banana, pomegranate, guava, sapota, burr, apple, coconut, areca nut, tobacco, coffee, tea, turmeric, betel wine, onion, coriander, garlic, curry leaf, pepper, ginger, and ornamental plants. Stored grain pests like coleopteran and lepidopteran pests, their biology and damage, then preventive and curative measures. Next subject is agriculture extension. In that, concepts, objectives, and principles, rural development. Rural development concept, objective, importance, and problems in rural development. Developmental programs of pre-independence era like Sriniketan, then Marthandam, Gurgaon experiment, Gandhian construction programs, development programs of post-independent era, Firka development, Itawa pilot project, Nilokeri experiment, community development programs, its concept, philosophy, principles, objectives, difference between community development and extension education, then National Extension Service. Next is Panchayat Raj system, its meaning, democratization, and Panchayat Raj. Three tier of Panchayat Raj system: powers, function, organization setup, agriculture development program with reference to year of start, objectives, silent features of intensive agriculture district program, high yielding variety program, then institutional village linking program, watershed development program, national agriculture technology project, Atma, ATIC, social justice and poverty alleviation programs like Integrated Tribal Development Agency, Integrated Rural Development Program, Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarojgar Yojana, Prime Minister Employment Yojana, new trends in extension, privatization, women development programs like development of women and children in rural area, then self-help groups, Stri Shakti Yojana, reorganized extension systems, its silent features, foresight meeting, monthly workshops, linkages, merits, demerits, emergence of broad-based extension, Rait Samparka Kendras, entrepreneur development, assessing overall business environment in Indian economy, overview of Indian social, political, economic systems and their implications for decision making by individual entrepreneurs, globalization and emerging business or entrepreneurial environment, concept of entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial and managerial concepts, managing an enterprise, motivation and entrepreneurship development, importance of planning, monitoring, evaluation and follow up, managing competition, entrepreneurship development programs, SWOT analysis, what is strength, weakness, opportunity, and T you should tell. And then generation, incubation, and commercialization of ideas and innovations. Then government schemes and incentives for promoting entrepreneurship, government policy on small and medium enterprises, social responsibility of business. Next, communication, models, elements, and their characterization. Types and barriers in commercialization, communication, extension program, planning, program project, importance, principles and steps in program development process, monitoring and evaluation of extension program, extension teaching methods, functions and classification. Individual contact methods like farm and house visit, result demonstration, field trials, its meaning, objective steps, merits and demerits. Group contact methods like group discussion, method demonstration, field trips, its meaning, objectives, steps, merits, demerits. Small group discussion techniques like lectures, symposium, panel, debate, forum, buzz group, workshop, brainstorming, seminar, and conference. Mass contact method like campaign, exhibition, Kisan Mela, radio and television, meaning and importance of steps, merits and demerits, factors influencing the selection of extension techniques, methods, and combination of teaching methods. Innovative information sources like innovate internet, cyber cafes, video, teleconference, Kisan call centers, consultancy clinics, agriculture journalism. diffusion and adoption of innovations, models of adoption processes, innovation, decision process like elements, adaptation categories and their characteristics, factors influencing adaptation process, capacity building of extension personnel and farmers, type of training, training of to farmers, farm women, rural youth like FTC and KVK, communication skills in that structure and functional grammar, meaning and process of communication, verbal and non-verbal communication, listening and note making, writing skills, oral presentation skills, field diary and lab records, indexing, footnote, bibliographic procedures. The sixth subject is agriculture marketing and cooperation. In this concept, scope, and subject matter, market and marketing, meaning, definition, components of market, classification, market structure, conduct, performance, market functionaries of agencies, producers, surplus, meaning, types of producer surplus, marketable surplus, marketed surplus, factors affecting marketable surplus, marketing channels, meaning, definition, channels for different products like marketing integration, meaning, definition, types of market integration, marketing efficiency, its meaning and definition, then marketing cost, margins, price spread, factors affecting the cost of marketing, reasons for higher marketing costs of farm commodities, ways of reducing marketing cost, theory of international trade, then domestic trade, free trade, international trade, GATT, WTO, and ministerial conferences, implications of AOA, then market access, domestic support, export subsidies, EXIM policy, cooperative marketing. Next is state trading, warehousing corporation, central and state objectives, functions, advantages, Food Corporation of India, objectives and functions, quality control, agriculture products, AGMARC, price characteristics of agriculture product processes, meaning, need of agriculture price policy, administered prices, institutions, then pricing method. Price at various stages of marketing. Next is risk in marketing, meaning of risk and its importance, type of risks in marketing, then speculations and hedging, futures trending, contract farming, supply chain management, agribusiness, its meaning, definition, structure of agribusiness like input farm product sectors. Next is importance of agribusiness in Indian economy, agribusiness management, distinctive features, importance of good management, then definition of management, management functions, planning, meaning, types of plans, characteristics of sound plan, steps in planning, organization, staffing, directing, motivation, ordering, leading, supervision, communication, control, agro based industries, importance and need, classification of industries, types of agro based industries, institutional arrangement, procedure to set up agro based industries, constraints in establishing agro based industries, marketing management, marketing mix, 4 P's of marketing, marketing segmentation, methods of product, market, and product life cycle. Next is concept of cooperation. Origin of cooperative movement, principles of cooperation, main features of cooperative organizations like historical development of cooperative movement, recent trends. Next is agriculture and non-agriculture cooperatives. In that, primary agriculture credit societies or PACs, farmers service societies like FSS, large-sized agricultural multi-purpose societies like LAMPs, then district central cooperative banks, state cooperative banks, cooperative marketing societies, processing cooperative dairy cooperatives, consumer cooperatives like urban cooperative banks, industrial cooperatives, cooperative education and training, its need and purpose, training, organization structure, NCUI, NCCE, NCCT, VM, NICM, RICM, ICM, and other institutions. The state and cooperative movement, an overview, evolution of relationship in Western and developing countries, basis of future relationship, cooperative legal system in that Karnataka State Cooperative Societies Act 1959. This is very important here. Then Karnataka Sauhard Sahakari Act 1997, Multi-State Cooperative Act 2002, review of important provisions of State Cooperative Societies Acts and Rules, cooperative movement in retrospect, achievements, crisis in the moment, the agenda for the future. Next is agriculture microbiology. This is seventh subject. Here, spontaneous generation theory, germ theory of disease, protection against infections, metabolism in bacteria, ATP generation, chemoautotrophy, photoautotrophy, respiration, fermentation. Then bacteriophage, it's the structure and properties of bacteria, virus, lytic and lysogenic cycle, viroids, prions, bacterial genetics, gene expression, genetic recombination, transformation, conjugation, transduction, genetic engineering, plasmids, episomes, genetically modified organisms. Soil microbiology. Microbial groups in soil, microbial transformation of carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur, biological nitrogen fixation, then microflora of rhizosphere and phyllosphere, microflora, microbes in composting. Next is applied area of microbiology, role of microbes in fermentation and industry, microbiology of water, like microorganisms in fresh and marine water, potability of water and wastewater treatment processes, microbiology of food, microbial spoilage and principles of food preservation, benefits of microbes in agriculture, then biofertilizers in that bacterial, cyanobacteria and fungal, then microbial insecticides, microbial agents for control of plant disease, biodegradation, bioremediation, biogas production, biodegradable plastics, plant microbe interaction, biology and cultivation of mushrooms, introduction to mushroom fungi, morphology and classification, edible and poisonous mushroom, cultivation of different types of mushrooms. This is all about the short syllabus of microbiology. Next is agriculture statistics. The syllabus consists of review of basic descriptive statistics like frequency distribution, mean, variance, standard deviation, etc. Then probability, its definition and concept, binomial, Poisson, normal distribution and its properties, introduction to sampling, random sampling, its concept, standard error, test of significance, types of errors, null hypothesis, level of significance and degrees of freedom, steps involved in testing hypothesis like large sample test, SND test for means, single sample and two samples, small sample test for mean, students t test for single sample, two samples and paired t test, then F test, chi-square test in 2 into 2 contingency table, its correction for continuity, then correlation, types of correlation and identification through scattered diagram, computation of correlation coefficient, that is R, and its testing, linear regression of y on x and x on y, interrelation between R and regression coefficients, fitting of regression equations, analysis of variance, that is ANOVA, here one way and two way ANOVA, experimental designs in that basic principles of experimental designs, completely randomized design, then layout and analysis with equal and unequal of observations, then RBD, that is randomized block design, layout and its analysis. Ninth is animal science, in that place of livestock in national economy, different livestock development programs of government of India, important exotic and Indian breeds of cattle, buffalo, sheep, goat and swine, measures and factors affecting fertility in livestock, reproductive behavior like ostrum, then parturition, furrowing, etc., milk secretion, milking of animals, and factors affecting milk yield and composition, nutritive value of milk, milk processing like pasteurization, indigenous dairy products. Next is selection and breeding of livestock for higher milk and meat production, feeding and measurement of cows, growing heifers and malob animals and other classes and types of animals, housing principles, space requirements for different species of livestock, disease control measures, sanitation and care, breeding, feeding, and production records, breed characteristics of poultry, their methods, rearing, breeding, feeding, and management, incubation, hatching, and brooding, vaccination and prevention of diseases, preservation and marketing of eggs, its economic and keeping quality, cost of production of milk, economic units of cattle, buffalo, sheep, goat, and swine, fisheries, resources of India like commercial importance, fishes, and their production. The 10th topic is apiculture. In that honeybee species, their caste, comb structure, stages, handling of bee colony and colony inspection, study of beehives and beekeeping equipments, study of different morphological and anatomical structure in honeybees, hiving of feral colony, management of colonies during different seasons like feeding, dividing, uniting, preventing of swarming, robbing, and absconding, management of bees colonies for honey production, study of bee pests and disease, study of bee flora, role of bees in crop pollination, bee poisoning, extraction, processing, and testing of honey and other bee products. 11th subject is biotechnology. In this concept of biotechnology, history of plant tissue culture, plant genetic engineering, scope, importance in crop improvement, totipotency, morphogenesis, nutrient requirement of in vitro culture, technique of in vitro culture, micropropagation, anther culture, pollen, ovule, embryo cultures, then test tube fertilization, endosperm culture, applications, somoclonal variation, types, reasons, somoclonal embryogenesis, and synthetic seed production technology. Next is protoplast isolation, culturing, manipulation, and fusion, products of somatic hybrids and hybrids, application in crop improvement, genetic engineering, restriction enzymes, vector for gene transfer, then gene cloning, direct and indirect methods for gene transfer, transgenic plants and their applications. This is again one of the important topic. Then blotting techniques, DNA fingerprinting, DNA based markers like RFLP, AFLP, RAPD, SSR, and DNA probes. Next is crop physiology. In this importance introduction of crop physiology in agriculture, growth and development definition, determinate and indeterminate growth, monocarpic and polycarpic species with example, measurement of growth, growth analysis, growth characteristics, definitions, and mathematical formula, crop water relations, physiological importance of water to plants, water potential and its components, measurement of water status in plants. Transpiration significance, transpiration in relation to crop productivity, water use efficiency, water use efficiency in C3, C4, and CAM plants, factors affecting water use efficiency, photosynthesis, energy synthesis, significance of C3, C4, CAM pathways, then relation of photosynthesis and crop productivity, translocation of assimilates, phloem loading, apoplastic, symplastic transport of assimilates, sources, sink concept, photorespiration, factors affecting photosynthesis and productivity, methods of measuring photosynthesis, dry method partitioning, harvest index of crops. Next is respiration and its significance, brief account of growth, respiration, and maintenance respiration, alternate respiration, measurement of respiration, nutriophysiology, definition, in that Mengel's classification of plant nutrients that includes physiology of nutrient uptake, functions of plant nutrient deficiency, and toxicity symptoms of plant nutrients, foliar nutrition, hydroponics, then plant growth regulators, occurrence, biosynthesis, modes of action of auxin, gibberellin, cytokinin, ABA, ethylene, novel plant growth regulators, commercial application of plant growth regulators in agriculture, photoperiodism and vernalization in relation to crop productivity, senescence and abscission, definition, climatic and non-climatic fruits, in that hormonal regulation of fruit ripening, post-harvest physiology, in that seed dormancy, definition, types of seed dormancy, advantages and disadvantages of seed dormancy, causes and residual measures for breaking the seed dormancy. 13th subject is food science and nutrition. This is very simple here, relation between agriculture, food, nutrition, food habits, nutritional situation, terminologies used in human nutrition, food and health, food and its functions and functional classification, basic food groups and their nutritional value, water, protein, fat classification, functions, sources, deficiencies, and RDA. Next is carbohydrates, its definition, classification, function, sources. Then energy classification, function, source, RDA, and measurement. Vitamins, its classification, function, source, and definition. Same for minerals also. Importance of balanced diet and its formulation using RDA. Calculation of nutritive value of balanced diet, importance of weaning foods, methods in dietary and nutritional surveys, assessment of nutritional status, ongoing national and international nutrition foods and nutrition programs. This is again one of the important topic. National nutrition policies, processing and preservation methods of foods, food storage methods, food safety issues and quality assurance systems, methods of sensory evaluation of foods, method in nutrition education. The 14th subject is forestry and environmental science. This I'll read quickly. Forest and forestry, importance, history, forestry education, research in India, various branches of forestry, National Forest Policy of 1894, 1952, 1988, Indian Forest Act 1927, Karnataka Tree Preservation Act, Forest Conservation Act 1980, Environmental Protection Act 1986, Indian Wildlife Protection Preservation Act 1972, Amendments to Environment Protection Act 1999, Forest Wealth in India, Forest Productivity, Deforestation, Various Causes and Implications, Desertification, Afforestation, Reforestation. Indian Wildlife and Management, National Parks and Sanctuaries, endangered species, national forests and their formation, succession and zonation, limiting factors, climax, vegetation types of national natural forests and their distribution, natural forests versus man-made forests, social forestry and its branches, extension forestry, urban forestry, recreation forestry, farm forestry, then agroforestry methods, woodlot system, etc., and their management, wind breaks and shelter belts, different types of wastelands and their reclamation through afforestation and joint forest management. Next is introduction to environmental science, in that bio geochemical cycles, O and water cycles, global warming or greenhouse effect, enhanced carbon dioxide levels on productivity of ecosystem, air pollution, industrial pollution of air and its consequences on the ecosystem, impact on ozone layer, effects of UVB radiation on plant ecosystem, water pollution, industrial effluents, domestic effluents, pesticide pollution, aquatic ecosystems, types and management, then environmental impact assessment, pollution indicator, species biological diversity, loss of biodiversity and their causes, approaches to conserve biological diversity. The next subject is genetics and plant breeding. Again, after agronomy, soil science, entomology, and plant pathology, genetics is one of the most question carrying subject for these exams. In this cell division, mitosis stages and significance, meiosis stages significance, difference between mitosis and meiosis, crossing over mechanisms and factor affecting it, introduction to genetics, brief historical background, Mendel's law, inheritance, exceptions to laws, multiple allele, pleiotropism, penetrance, expressivity, gene action, intragenic interaction, complete, incomplete, partial dominance, and codominance, intergeneric interaction like epistasis, digenic interaction, types with examples, linkage, its types, detection, estimation, and exploitation. Next is sex linkage, sex limited and sex influenced limits, traits, sex determination, mechanisms with examples, introduction to quantitative genetics. So, in this, quantitative traits and qualitative traits and difference between them, multiple factor hypothesis. Next is cytoplasmic inheritance, its character, feature, and difference between chromosomal or nuclear and cytoplasmic inheritance, maternal effect, DNA and its structure, function, types, models of replication, repair, RNA and its structure, function, types, central dogma of molecular biology, transcription, translation, genetic code, its features, gene regulation, lac operon as a model, chromosome structure, morphology, karyotype and its ideogram, ultrastructure of cell and cell organisms and their function, chromosomal aberrations like numerical in that euploidy with crops like wheat, tobacco, cotton, brassica, and aneuploidy. In structural aberrations like deletion, duplication, inversion, translocation aberrations. Next is mutation, its characteristic features, silent features of mutations and their classification with example. CLB technique, uh, this can be included or omitted. Microscopy, that is like light microscopy and electron microscopy. Reparation and use of fixatives and stains for light microscopy. Preparation of slides and identification of various stages of mitosis. Preparation of slides and identification of various stages of meiosis. Problems on monohybrid ratios and its modifications and multiple alleles, problems on dihybrid ratio, statistical testing of segregation of traits as per Mendelian principles, chi-square test, its application, solving problems on digenic interaction, solving problems on polygenic inheritance, gene mapping, then autosomal and sex linkage. In breeding, importance, objective of breeding, modes of reproduction, genetic consequences, cultivar options and their significance in plant breeding, centers of origin and plant genetic resource, their conservation and utilization in crop improvement and introduction to IPR, modes of pollination. Genetic consequences, difference between self and cross pollinated crops, domestication, concept of plant introduction and acclimatization, and then pollination control systems in that self incompatibility and male sterility and their utilization in breeding. Next is methods of generating variability. In that techniques included like hybridization, mutation, polyploidy, somaclonal variation. Then mass selection. In that Johnson's pure line selection, genetic basis of pure line selection, methods of handling of segregating generations in self-pollinated crops. Then pedigree method, bulk method, SSD and modified methods, backcross methods and its applications, then concepts of population genetics in that Hardy Weinberg law, concept of population improvement methods, then mass selection and its modification, recurrent selection methods, development of synthetics and composites, concept of inbreeding, depression, and heterosis, theories and utilization of heterosis, development of inbred lines, single cross and double cross hybrids, principle of breeding clonally propagated crops, then concept of handling breeding material generated through mutation and polyploidization, then significance of wide hybridization in crop improvement, biotechnology for crop improvement, tissue culture and their culture, double haploids, embryo culture, somoclonal variation, introduction to markers and marker assisted selection. Then objective and concept of breeding self-pollinated crops and cross-pollinated and vegetatively propagated crops, origin, evolution, distribution of cultivated and wild species in cereals, pulses, then oilseeds, fibers, commercial crops, then idiotype concept in crop improvement, then breeding for resistant to biotic and abiotic stress, breeding for quality traits, then mechanism of resistance and selection criteria for resistance to biotic and abiotic stress, emasculation and hybridization techniques in plants, visit to research centers of different crops, visit to DGPB breeding plots and demonstration of segregating generations, then visit to research centers of different crop steps in variety release within state country including dust testing characteristics, then field layout of experiments, again here experimental designs are concentrated, then percentage of outstanding and recently released varieties and hybrids. Sorry, here parentage is asked. This is also very important. If you won't remember it properly in exam you will get confused. Study of quality characters in that sources of donors for different characters, visit to seed production and certification plots, visit to AICRP programs, then grow out test plot, visit to seed production plots, then visit to other institutions. This is all about genetics and plant breeding. Friends, at least 25% of the concepts are already covered in this particular channel and uploaded. If you want any particular topic you can search. Next is horticulture. Branches, importance and scope, classification of horticulture crops, distribution, importance of soil and environment of horticulture crops, temperature, water, light, plant nutrient as limiting factors, principle of orchard establishment and management, planting and transplanting, phases of growth, vegetative and reproductive, then soil management practices and cropping system, water requirements and irrigation methods, importance and scope of fruit crops in India, study of cultivation practices of important crops like mango, banana, citrus, grapes, guava, sapota, papaya, pineapple, pomegranate, fig, jackfruit, and other minor fruits with reference to their origin, distribution, area, production, use, soil, climatic requirements, important cultivars and hybrids, propagation, planting, high density planting system, irrigation, nutrition, training, pruning, intercropping, mixed cropping, major cultivation problems and their remedial measures, harvesting, yield, storage, and marketing, use of plant growth regulators for fruit set, fruit drop, fruit growth, fruit ripening, then management of major pests and diseases in horticulture crops. Next is nutrition and economic importance of vegetables, type of vegetable gardens, vegetable classification, origin, area, production, distribution, soil, climate, varieties and hybrid cultivation practices like methods of propagating, sowing, seed rate, nursery, spacing, transplanting, manures and fertilizers, weed management, mulching, irrigation, interculture, plant protection, harvesting, yield and grading of fruits and pods, vegetables like tomato, brinjal, chili, capsicum, okra, cucumber, melon, gourds, pumpkins, squashes, beans, peas, cluster bean, dolichos beans, cowpea, cole crops like cabbage, cauliflower, nolcole, bulb crops like onion and garlic, root crops like carrot, radish, beetroot, turnip, tuber crops like potato, sweet potato, tapioca, leafy vegetables like amaranthus, methi, palak, coriander, and perennial vegetables like curry leaf, drumstick, coccinia. Next, history, scope, and importance of ornamental crops. In this classification, role in pollution control, production of um, technology of flower crops under production protected and open cultivation, propagation of flower crops and ornamentals like rose, carnation, gerbera, anthurium, gladiolus, tuberose, jasmine, chrysanthemum, then Crocenta, Marigold, China Aster, post harvest handling and elements, principle and planning of landscape gardening, then types and styles of gardens, garden features and its adornment, indoor gardening, and bonsai. Next is importance and production techniques of plantation crops like in this coconut, areca nut, cashew, rubber, coffee, tea, spices crops like pepper, cardamom, ginger, coriander, fenugreek, medicinal crops like Rauwolfia, Osimum, then periwinkle, aloe, McCoy, amla, stevia, coleus, aromatic crops like lemongrass, vetiver, patchouli, geranium, and davana. Next is importance of post-harvest technology in horticulture. Its maturity indices harvesting and post-harvest handling of fruits and vegetables, maturity and ripening processes, factors affecting ripening of fruits and vegetables, pre-harvest factors affecting quality on post-harvest shelf life of fruits and vegetables, then factors responsible for deterioration of harvested fruits and vegetables, chemicals used for hastening and delaying ripening of fruits and vegetables, methods of storage, pre-cooling, waxing, various methods of packing, packaging material and transport. Next is specific packing for export of mango, banana, grapes, sweet orange, and mandarin. Importance and scope of fruits and vegetable preservation in India. Principles and methods of preservation, fermentation, unit layout, selection of site, and precautions for hygienic conditions of the unit. Preservation through freezing, dehydration, drying, preparation of jam, jelly, marmalades, candies, crystallized and glazed fruits, preserves, pickles, ketchup, sauce, puree, syrup, juice, squash, and cordials, spoilage of canned products, biochemical, enzymatic, and microbial spoilage, then food additives. 17 subject is plant pathology, again one of the important subject. In this introduction scope subject of plant pathology, importance of diseases, history and development of pathology, definition, concept of plant disease, causes of plant disease like biotic, abiotic, viruses, and representative examples of diseases caused by them, symptoms of disease, general characters of pathogens like prokaryotes, their classification according to Burgess Manual of Systematic Bacteriology, classification of fungi, classification of virus, molecules, nematodes, growth and reproduction of plant pathogen, replication of virus, liberation or disposal of plant pathogens and survival of plant pathogen, type of parasitism, then variability in plant pathogens. Next is pathogenesis, that is the phenomena of host infection by pathogen, stages in the development of plant disease, role of enzyme, toxins, growth regulators in disease development, and their classification. Next is defense mechanism in plants, structural and biochemical like pre and post infection, effect of pathogens on physiological processes like photosynthesis, respiration, translocation, and transcription. Then epidemiology like soil and environmental factors affecting disease development, epidemics and factors affecting development of epidemics, pattern of epidemics, disease program curve, disease forecasting, assessment of disease severity, then crop loss and remote sensing. Next is seed pathology. Importance of seed health to men and animals, seed-borne nature of pathogens, identification and detection of seed-borne pathogens, principle and methods of plant disease management, avoidance of pathogen, choice of geographical area, selection of field and planting stock, Then exclusion, in that plant quarantine regulations and inspections, post entry quarantine. Eradication, in that cultural and physical methods of eradication and inoculum reduction. Biological methods includes crop rotation, use of trap crops, plant and plant products, use of biological control agents, mechanism of biocontrol, cross protection, then breeding for resistance breeding, in that types of resistance, development of resistant variety, induced resistance, then protection within that chemical methods like nature classification, mode of action and formulations of fungicides, bactericides, antibiotics, and nematicides. Then, method of applications of chemicals, insect vector management, application of biotechnology in plant disease management, then tissue culture and protoplast culture techniques, genetic engineering approaches of developing transgenics, integrated disease management, its concept, advantage, importance, then case studies in integrated disease management. Next is economic importance, distribution system, cause, epidemiology, disease cycle, life cycle, and integrated management of diseases of cereals, millets, pulses, commercial crops, oil seeds, blah blah blah. Along with that, cash crops like sugarcane, cotton, tobacco, chili, turmeric, mulberry. Economic importance, distribution, symptom, cause, epidemiology, disease cycle, integrated management of fruit crops, then ornamental crops, vegetable crops, medicinal and aromatical crops. Okay, this list already I have given you. Next is seed science and technology. In this quality seed, its importance, difference between grain and seed, concept of quality seed, seed technology definition, objectives, role in increasing agriculture production, and then seed improvement programs in India and Karnataka, reproductive process in crop plant, sexual and asexual, apomixis, seed formation and its development, general principles of seed production, seed replacement and multiplication rates, generation system of seed production like breeder, foundation, certified, truthfully labeled seed, maintenance of genetic purity, causes for varietal deterioration, male sterility concepts and its use in hybrid seed production, nucleus and breeder seed production of newly released and established varieties of self-pollinated crops like rice, wheat, soybean, chickpea, pigeon pea, rapeseed, mustard. Then inbred and non-inbred lines, foundation and certified seed production of maize, single and double cross hybrids, hybrid seed production of sunflower, sorghum, pearl millet, rice using male sterility systems. Then latest released hybrids, their percentage, characteristics, seed production of wheat, rice, soybean, gram, sunflower, pigeon pea, groundnut, castor, cotton, etc. Seed production in some important vegetables. Then seed certification, its concept, role, goal, certification agencies, certified and truthfully labeled seeds, minimum certification standards for self and cross pollinated crops, field and seed inspections, its objectives, seed act and rule, seed legislation and seed laws enforcement, seed control order, seed policies, seed bills, WTO, IPR, PBR in India and recent developments in Indian seed industry, then seed quality regulations, seed processing, cleaning, grading, treatment methods, bagging, storage, factors affecting quality in storage, orthodox and recalcitrant seeds, storage of pest and disease control, seed testing in these principles and methods of sampling, purity analysis, moisture, germination, viability and vigor, then cultivar purity test. In that ODV, electrophoresis and grow test for seed genetic purity, seed health, etc. Next is seed dormancy for in this causes and breaking methods, seed marketing, organization, seed pricing, promoting of the quality seed and seed marketing strategies, etc. Next is sericulture. Sericulture, distribution of sericulture, species of silkworm and their host plants, mulberry cultivation, techniques of raising mulberry saplings, biofertilizers for mulberry types, methods of application and their merits, pest and disease management, harvesting and preservation of leaves, methods of pruning, mechanization in mulberry cultivation and silkworm layering, UAS Seri Suvarna technology for sustainable rain-fed sericulture, three-tier system of silkworm seed multiplication, concept of seed area, then egg production in mulberry silkworm, loose egg preparation technology, preservation and handling, life cycle of different species of silkworm, morphology and anatomy of Bombyx mori, then disinfection and disinfectants. Next is rearing practices in silkworm, rearing house equipments, concept of chalky, molting, spacing, feeding, bed cleaning and mounting, pest and disease of mulberry silkworm and management, sericulture byproducts, utilization of sustainable production systems, harvesting of cocoon, marketing, cocoon markets, characteristics of cocoons, system of stifling, cooking and reeling and automatic reeling, economics of sericulture, silk exchange, functions, locations, mode of transaction of raw silk, then silk trade under WTO regime. The last subject is soil science and agriculture chemistry. Here, soil pedological and edaphological concept, soil science scope and branches of soil science, earth sphere and composition of earth crust, minerals, its classification, formation, properties of silicate and non-silicate minerals. Next is rocks classification, formation, properties of igneous, sedimentary and metamorphic rocks. Then weathering, its types, factor, weathering, products of weathering, then soil formation like soil forming factors and processes. Soil profile, master horizons, subordinate horizons, then soil physical properties, soil structure, classification, texture, soil separates, properties of soil separates, particle size analysis in that Stokes law, assumption, limitation, textural classes, then in soil structure classification, soil aggregates, evaluation of soil structure significance, then pore space, types, factors affecting porosity, manipulation. Next is bulk density and particle density, relations, factors, significance and manipulation. Then soil color, in that again factor, attributes, significance. Soil consistency, its form, factor, limits and significance. Like that soil crusting, soil temperature, and the important temperature regimes influencing on plant growth, soil air composition, gaseous exchange, influence of soil air on plant growth, then soil water classification, potential soil moisture content, movement of soil water, infiltration, percolation, hydraulic conductivity, soil survey, types and methods, soil classification systems, soil taxonomy, advantage, structure, formative elements, diagnostic horizon, keys to soil orders, then soils of Karnataka and India. Next is soil chemistry. In this scope and importance, component of soil, inorganic and organic components, soil colloids like type, property, significance of soil colloids, layer silicate clays, its genesis, structure and properties, sources of charges like positive and negative, then electrical double layer, Helmholtz, Goy-Chapman, Stern theories, ion exchange, in that cation exchange capacity and anion exchange capacity, factors influencing ion exchange and its significance, soil organic matter, its composition, decomposition, fractioning of organic matter, uses, humus, humic substances, nature and properties, carbon cycle, CN ratio, problematic soil, acid sulfate, salt affected and calcareous soil characteristics, nutrient availabilities, reclamation, mechanical, chemical, biological methods, then irrigation water, its quality of water and its appraisal, Indian standards for water quality, then use of saline water for agriculture, chemistry of submerged soil. Next is manures types, bulky organic manures like FYM, compost, raw materials, methods of composting, vermicompost, green manures, types and composition, concept of organic manure like oil cake type and composition, sewage and sludge type and composition. Next is fertilizers, its classification, manufacturing process, properties of major nitrogenous, phosphorus, potassic complex fertilizer. Then secondary and micronutrient fertilizers, their fate and reactions in soil, fertilizer use efficiency, time and method of application. Then soil amendments, fertilizer control order, again this is important. Agrochemical classification, chemistry, mode of action of agrochemicals, botanical insecticides, synthetic organic insecticides, major classes, properties, use of some insecticide, herbicide, fungicide, nematicide, acaricide, rodenticide, then compatibility of fertilizers with pesticides, insecticides act. Then plant nutrients, classification and source. Essential and beneficial elements, criteria of essentiality, forms of nutrition in soil, mechanisms of nutrient transport to plants, factor affecting availability of major, secondary, micronutrient to plants, measures to overcome deficiencies and toxicity, soil fertility, different approaches of soil fertility evaluation, soil testing for available nutrients, critical levels of different nutrients in soil. Next is plant analysis. In this, total and rapid tissue tests that include critical level of nutrients in plants, DRIS method, deficiency symptoms like indicator plants, then biological method of soil fertility evaluation, soil testing based fertilizer recommendations to crops. Next is factors influencing nutrient use efficiency in respect to nitrogen, phosphorus, potash, sulfur, iron, zinc fertilizers, then sources, methods, and scheduling of nutrients for different soils and crops grown under rain-fed and irrigated conditions, then integrated plant nutrition supply system and its management. Friends, this is all about the 20 topics. If you want any specific thing or if you have any questions, you can just drop it here. I think um, any queries may be there, so you can keep it here. And if you liked this initiation, please like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.